Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Alright, hands up, who was stupid enough not to see this one coming? This morning's briefing is a follow-up to the Friday crime report. The white media is reporting that Phoenix Ikner, the gunman who murdered 2 people and wounded half a dozen others in an attack at Florida State University, had what the white media calls troubling fascination with Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. Troubling fascination, they say, as opposed to a healthy fascination, I suppose. Not surprisingly, this guy is also a so-called gamer, and we can see what he uses online time to push. He had a picture on one of his online gaming accounts where he used a drawing of Adolf Hitler with the word 9 in a thought bubble. For the screen name that he used on another account, he used the name Schutzstaffel, which was the name of Hitler's SS thugs. These video game networks and websites, they act as places for these racists to hang out and to act out the racist hate speech they love so much and not be punished for it. And as we all know, hate speech leads to hate crimes. But the video game companies don't mind because 99% of the time, they spout anti-black rhetoric, and everyone knows the people who run these video game companies are as racist as their so-called gamer fans are, the Phoenix Ikners of the world. Of course, when you look at his internet searches, you see that this guy also had a troubling fascination with the Confederate flag and scientific racism too. Another account that Ikner used had the symbol for Patriot Front. That's the white extremist group who previously called themselves Vanguard America. Back then, one of their members drove his car into a crowd of people in Charlottesville, killing Heather Heyer in the process. These days, Patriot Front runs around in rider vans doing flash mob antics, but a number of these criminals also join law enforcement. Ikner was aspiring to be one of them, but he couldn't contain his racial privilege long enough. Ordinarily, I'd say I told you so, but this is so normal, so routine, we all knew it well before the white media finally decided to admit to it. In addition to being a mass shooter and a double murderer, Phoenix Ikner was also a white supremacist too. Seems every one of these mass murderers, from the Columbine killers to Nicholas Cruz, has all kinds of anti-black ideology that they love to spout. USA Today, the rag of record, actually gave some passing mention to this fact, even though this is the most consistent trait that these mass murderers have in common: psychopathic anti-black racism. All the things that we in the black media have reported and chronicled for you, the white media is only just now being embarrassed into admitting to it. As I've always told you, if you're not following the black media, you'll always be the last to know. But his video game profiles and his internet searches, that's what he was doing when he was online. Did his classmates at FSU know about his anti-black white supremacist leanings? Of course they did. They knew that he was expressing all of this stuff, and they were calling him out on it. His classmates have talked about how he openly touted right-wing conspiracy theories and hateful ideas. Among them was his assertion that Rosa Parks was in the wrong and black people were ruining his neighborhood. One classmate said that Ikner had been part of a political roundtable club. Quote, basically our only rule was no Nazis, colloquially speaking, and he espoused so much white supremacist rhetoric and far-right rhetoric as well to the point where we had to exercise that rule. Another classmate said, I got into arguments with him in class over how gross the things he said were. I remember thinking this man should not have access to firearms. But what are you supposed to do? Yeah. Everyone already knew that there's laws in place that are supposed to stop people like this, but the people who are supposed to enforce these laws won't. These race soldiers are being deliberately protected by these schools and by the state. This is what moron DeSantis and the rest of the white right think of as a well-regulated militia. The reason they don't want these racist murderers to be disarmed is because they don't want any of these race soldiers, in uniform or without, to think that the state's going to restrict their violence. They've written laws openly meant to encourage exactly this kind of savagery, because the white right is waging a race war and the white left is letting them. We've seen this pattern enough times where it's undeniable. These are the warning signs. The problem isn't that the warning signs were missed, it's that the people who are giving off the warning signs are the wrong color. We've seen this from Columbine to Ethan Crumbley to Nicholas Cruz. Everyone knows these mass shooters when they see them at this point. The problem is they also know the administrators of these schools aren't going to do anything about them because their top priority is maintaining white primacy. And that means whenever these burgeoning psychopaths are getting ready to cross the line, nothing can be done to stop them. Nothing can be allowed to stop them. If a black student wears dreadlocks or their teachers or what have you say that they don't like their hairstyle, then they will forcibly cut their hair. But someone showing obvious white supremacist ideology that you know routinely precedes mass murders, and there's just nothing they can do. As soon as he began spouting that anti-black crap, he should have been kicked out of the university, not just out of a political discussions club. You got the white left and the white right who are so hot and bothered to make sure that anything that even remotely smells of anti-Semitism results in people getting kicked out of school immediately. There's no violence required and no history of violence, but it's just a matter of we got to make sure you don't say the wrong thing. Meanwhile, you got all of these school shooters who overwhelmingly have anti-black racism in common, and well, we're not kicking anybody out of school just because they say something. Even whenever they threaten people on campus or perform some act of violence, well, unless they actually pull a pistol and start gunning people down, we can't actually kick them out of school, don't you know? So the people who are actually responsible for the actual on-campus violence, you're not going to do anything about that. But somebody who says something that certain people don't like, that's all it takes. That's how you know they're protecting them. You have people who are also doing what the white media has conditioned them to do, to pretend as if these murders are some sort of anomaly or some kind of wild deviation from the norm, when in reality they are completely normal for this society. The problem isn't that this murderer was exposed to extremism. It's that this society has made white supremacist extremism normal and always has. What's not normal is punishing these people. What's not normal is conditioning society that when these people rear their heads, they'll be expelled, fired, punished. This is why he wanted to be in law enforcement. White supremacists know that they can harm people, especially black people, violate their rights, put bogus criminal cases on innocent people, murder unarmed citizens in the streets, and not be punished for it. When these guys look at the police, they see an obvious and ready outlet for their anti-black violence. And they're right. And this stuff is also taught in the home. Are we supposed to believe that his mother didn't know what he was into? Are we supposed to believe that the apple fell far from the tree? You combine the deliberate legal immunity that the thugs in blue receive with ready, no-problem access to guns and a socially permissive environment where certain classes of people are never told they're wrong, never told no, and never punished for their behavior, and this is what you get. As we told you and keep telling you, these mass murderers are not so much a gun problem as they are a white supremacist problem. The reason that no school massacre is enough for this country to even consider limiting access to guns for certain people is because that's how white supremacy entrenched itself, through open, unpunished violence, and that's how it intends to maintain its position in the world, having armed racial zealots willing to kill any and everyone, including other white people. That's precisely what the dominant society wants. For the dominant society, they've already reduced it to nothing more than a math equation. 330 million people in the United States, with tens of millions of them going to universities and schools every single day, and only 2 got killed today and 6 wounded. Far as the dominant society is concerned, that's not even a drop in the bucket, much less a drop in the ocean. The same way that those young people at these schools and universities have been conditioned to understand that nothing's going to be done, so the rest of the society has also been conditioned to understand nothing's going to be done, because they want it this way. Groups like Patriot Front should be on a terrorist watch list. They should actually be pursued actively as terrorists because that's what they are. But they're not. Even Democrats didn't dare pursue them as terrorists. They don't even dare say that they're going to designate them as terrorists. So what's going to happen is the bodies are going to continue to hit the floor. As we speak, the next school shooter is no doubt practicing their anti-black memes in whatever video game chat rooms they're in. And they're also telling themselves that when they get to school, they're going to try to make sure that they kill some black people first. The white media will be telling everyone there's nothing to see here and let's go ahead and change the subject. The school administrators will swear that there's no way that they could predict who's going to do these kind of things, and even if they could, well, there's nothing they can do. And the race soldiers and law enforcement will be giving a wink and a nod to this violence, because the reality is the Phoenix Ikners aren't the only ones with blood on their hands. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Leftravia Lawson, Joe Bobo, Faith Speaks Life, Wesley Monroe, and Coco Sweets. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.